Hey folks, Jack from Moonshift Audio here. In this quick tutorial I'm going to show you how I made the FunkOff Bass patch from my free Retro Serum Presets pack. It sounds like this. This huge squelchy bass patch was inspired by 70s and 80s P-Funk and is a really nice way to add some soul to a production. This patch, along with over 50 more basses, leads, keys and pads, are available for free in my Retro Serum Presets pack. If you want to download that, there's a link in the description. But for now, let's jump into Serum. Okay, so this is a fresh instance of Serum, and we can start off by getting straight into the oscillators. I've used the stock waveform analog bass drum sine wave for that really thick, solid sine wave foundation. And for oscillator B, I've used the Moog Sub 37 sub oscillator, which is included in my free Retro Serum Presets pack. I sampled that from the Moog I've got here in the studio. There's nothing clever going on with these oscillators at all. I've literally left everything the same. The level is matched. The initial wavetable position is fine for both of them. No detune, no unison. This is a pretty straightforward patch in terms of oscillators. So we'll move on to the filter. Obviously turn it on, make sure it's acting on both oscillators. We want quite a sharp curve on this, so I've just gone up to the 24 dB per octave stock filter. And we're going to pull the cutoff right down almost to the bottom, like 12 Hertz, something like that. We probably won't hear anything now. Yeah, nothing at all coming through. We want a bit of resonance, like 20% or something, so it's squelchy but not screaming. And we'll fatten this up a bit as well. I think about 30% drive, 30% fat will be delicious. Let's get straight onto the envelope because we're going to want to modulate this all the way. So all of that cutoff opening up is going to be dependent on this envelope. We want a pretty snappy attack, but it's a good idea if you're working with very bassy sounds and particularly things like sine waves to have at least a little bit of attack so that it's not an instant on, because you can get clicking with your oscillators like that. So half a millisecond is great. We'll pull the decay down. The decay of about a second is actually about right for this, I think. The sustain we want to pull down to almost -10 dB. And we'll have a pretty snappy release, but perhaps just a little bit more than the stock setting. Yeah, the sound is coming together. So the next thing we want to do is to get that signature P-Funk wobble going. So obviously using LFO for that. Don't want this synced to the BPM. Let's just drag this onto the fine tune of both our oscillators. There it is, there's the wobble. Perhaps we could get that. Yeah, we'll just speed that up a tiny bit there. At this point, it's a good idea to make sure that we've got the voicing in mono because we want to be able to glide between notes. And we might want to turn on legato as well, just so we can get a little bit of a slide without re-triggering the envelopes. The other thing I'm going to modulate with envelope 1 is the drive on the distortion. So if I just quickly come in here, turn on distortion, I'll come back to these settings later, but I'm just going to use this, put an extra 20 or so on the drive here. So what that means is when we trigger a new note, we're just going to get a little bit of extra bite on that attack section. Now the next thing I want to look at is the wobble on these notes is a bit much when we first play the note, and it's nice to have the attack section where we're getting that extra bite and the impact of the note clean, like unmodulated in terms of the pitch. That's where the matrix comes in. So we're in the matrix and we can see here that the LFO is modulating the fine tune on oscillator A and on oscillator B. For the aux source, I'm going to set this on both cases to be envelope 2. And now we just need to set the parameters for that envelope. So we do want a bit of an attack on this. So let's see what we're like with that. Maybe a little bit less. So you can hear we just get a little bit of a break, a little bit of time before the wobble comes in. It comes in gradually. It might be worth setting the release to match envelope 1, close enough. But we want this to stay at 100% so the decay is not relevant. Okay, so our patch is starting to come together now. Let's just have a quick look at the effects section. So we've got this distortion, Tube is great. We will use the EQ. We'll set the EQ here to about 10k, just so we don't really add, I don't want to add sizzle to this. I don't want to add that distortion to the really, really high frequencies. We could probably pull the mix back as well, and I've set the drive to about 45%. Just to turn it on as well. Just here, it's just adding a little bit of bite to that initial attack section of the sound. So following that, a compressor. And we don't want loads, we just want to let the very initial transient through. So I'm going to pull this attack time up. And everything else can pretty much stay as is. We're not going for loads of gain reduction, but with a slow attack like that, we're just going to add a tiny bit of initial click through. So if I play without, can you hear we're just getting a tiny bit of extra punch at the very start of those notes, and that's really going to help that cut through in the context of a mix. Last up, EQ. Going to do some very simple high and low shelving here just to thicken this up. So we're going to take the low frequency down to about 200 and between 200 to 210 should be fine. We'll put a couple of dBs gain in there. And for the highs, we'll set this to about 8k. We'll just take the really top end out. Again, both of these are on shelves, and let's take 5 dBs out of that. Just taking some of that kind of shine off it and adding a bit of weight down the low end, because we want this to be a nice thick bass at the end of the day. And there you have it. That is the FunkOff Bass. If you found this video helpful, please do like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, resources and downloads from me at Moonshift Audio. Till next time.